Ukraine will never give up its territories to anyone and will not allow history to be rewritten by no one. This is how President of Ukraine Volodymyr Zelenskyy has reacted to Putin's signing of the so-called joining agreement to Russia of the temporarily occupied Ukrainian territories of Donetsk, Luhansk, Kherson and Zaporizhia regions. In response, Ukraine has filed an application for NATO membership in an accelerated accession.
The entire territory of our country will be liberated from this enemy. Russia already knows this, and that is why it is in a hurry, organizes this farce with the attempted annexation, tries to steal something that doesn't belong to it, wants to rewrite history and redraw borders with murders, torture, blackmail and lies. Ukraine will not allow that. We are taking our decisive step by signing Ukraine's application for accelerated accession to NATO.
The North Atlantic Alliance has already stated that it would not recognize Russian attempts to annex Ukrainian territories. Secretary General of NATO, Jens Stoltenberg, has called the sham referenda and the annexation attempt the most serious escalation since the start of the war. He has stressed that the unit would continue to support Ukraine with all its might.
Every democracy in Europe has the right to apply for NATO membership, and NATO allies respect that right. And we have stated again and again that NATO's door remains open, and we have demonstrated that over the last years. NATO allies, when they met at the NATO summit in Madrid, stated also very clearly that we support Ukraine's right to choose its own path, to decide what kind of security arrangements it wants to be part of. Then a decision on membership, of course, has to be taken by all 30 allies, and we take these decisions by consensus.
In response to the attempted illegal annexation of Ukrainian territories, the US has imposed a new package of sanctions on dozens of individuals and entities in Russia, including families of top Russian officials Medvedev and Mishustin. The US State Department has promised to use also other tools to hold Russia accountable. President Biden has also said the US would never recognize the attempted annexation of Ukrainian territories.
The United States, I want to be very clear about this, the United States will never recognize Russia's claims on Ukraine's sovereign territory. This so-called referenda was a sham, an absolute sham. The results were manufactured in Moscow. And the true will of the Ukrainian people is evident every day as they sacrifice their lives to save their people and maintain the independence of their country and in defense of freedom as well. Russia's assault on Ukraine in pursuit of Putin's imperial ambitions is a flagrant violation of the UN Charter and the basic principles of sovereignty and territorial integrity.
Great Britain has expanded sanctions against Russia too. The head of the Central Bank of Russia and deputies of the State Duma of Russia have been included in the blacklist. Prime Minister of Great Britain Liz Truss says that London will never recognize the Ukrainian regions as part of Russia, and it will do everything to make Putin lose the war with Ukraine. Britain will never accept the regions of Donetsk, Luhansk, Kherson and Zaporizhia as anything other than Ukrainian territory. Putin has once again acted in violation of international law with clear disregard for the lives of the Ukrainian people he claims to represent. The UK will never ignore sovereign will of those people. We will ensure he loses this illegal war. Liz Truss, Prime Minister of Great Britain, in an interview with Sky News. The UN has stated that the decision to annex the Donetsk, Luhansk, Kherson and Zaporizhia regions of Ukraine had no legal significance. The same opinion is shared in the European Union.
President Putin has decided on Russia's illegal annexation of the Ukrainian regions of Donetsk, Lugansk, Zaporizhia and Kherson. And this annexation follows sham referenda. It is a dangerous and irresponsible escalation. It's designed as a step to intensify the nuclear threat against the rest of the world. The European Union unequivocally rejects and condemns these illegal annexations, and it will never recognize them, just as it did not recognize the annexation of Crimea in 2014.
The position of the United Nations is unequivocal. We are fully committed to the sovereignty, unity, independence and territorial integrity of Ukraine within its internationally recognized borders, in accordance with the relevant UN resolutions. I want to underscore that the so-called referenda in the occupied regions were conducted during active armed conflict in areas under Russian occupation and outside Ukraine's legal and constitutional framework. They cannot be called the genuine expression of the popular will. Antonio Guterres, Secretary General of the United Nations.
The attempted annexation by Russia of the temporarily occupied Ukrainian territories was also condemned by the ministers of foreign affairs of the G7 countries, and they promised to introduce new sanctions against Moscow. We are talking about individuals and legal entities inside and outside the country that provide political and economic support to the war against Ukraine. Reported by Dana Kolesnik, Vlada Tsurkan, UATV News.